We may have spent a lot of time in the clown makeup, but Final Fantasy fans finally have release windows to look forward to. Hello world, my name is Atticus, and welcome to general Final Fantasy excitement. As is the case with most Junes, a lot of video game commercials aired. There's a lot of space horror in the pipeline. Silksong is coming out no later than June 12th, 2023. They didn't specify a release date, and in the Xbox showcase they said everything they show is coming out within the next year. I think, or I hope maybe, that Team Cherry is aiming for a winter release, and they don't know if it's going to be before the turn of the calendar or after. So I'm hoping holiday, optimistically thinking February for Silksong. And Starfield looks like another Bethesda open world. Should be fine, but I can't say I'm terribly excited. There's a very neat moon jump though, and I am excited about that. There wasn't too much else this year that caught my eye, but there was Final Fantasy. The 16th mainline title releases next summer, and here's a bit of what we know so far. It's got summons, specifically the big popular ones, like Ifrit, Ramuh, Shiva, Garuda, and Titan. They specified that they purposefully went for the well-known summons out of all the summons in Final Fantasy history, and apparently there's some mystery as to why there are two fire summons, Ifrit and Phoenix. So they seem to be playing a big part in the story. Makes sense if you've got people who can turn into the physical embodiment of an element. I imagine they'd have a pretty big impact on history. All that said, I would like the series to dip its toes with some new summons. The Ivalice games stand out to me in part because they don't use the standard summon suite. Valefor is an incredible first summon for 10 because it's new and reinforces the idea that both Tidus and us, the player, are in new and unfamiliar territory. 16 should still be great. I was just a bit underwhelmed when the summons were revealed. The trailer had this big dramatic moment, the name, the face, and it's like, yeah, it's those guys again. On to gameplay. It looks to be an action game, like 15 before it. Clive, our main character, will have companions that fight alongside him, but they'll be controlled by AI rather than the player. I just mentioned Ivalice, but can we bring back Gambits? That was such a neat part of 12. Back on track, there's a wolf named Torgal, and he'll probably be a party member. The game will span multiple years. I believe we have 3 time periods, one where Clive is in his teens, one for his 20s, and one for his 30s. It'll be rated M, so it can explore more adult themes. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I'm here for it. And it will not be open world in order to better create a feel of a global scale. By necessity, an open world game is constrained to the explorable world, no matter how large that may be. So this does I think it will do a good job of making it feel like it's taking place across a continent, a world, and not just this single continuous space. Much like how God of War 4's single camera really constrains the amount of time the game takes place in. You never leave your characters. The game takes as long as however long it took you to play through it. It's a similar idea. No word on if these zones will be like the hallways from 10 and 13 or more open zones like Sonic Frontiers is purportedly going for. Finally, the English cast contains no Americans because the setting is supposed to be reminiscent of medieval Europe, and they were worried that people would call an American accent out as immersion breaking or something. I'm quite excited for the game, and we only have a year to wait. Next up, we've got a Crisis Core remake, which took me by surprise. Crisis Core is one of those games that I got up to the final boss, but wasn't actually ready to fight it, so I've never beaten the game. If you're not familiar with the title, it's a prequel to Final Fantasy VII released on the PlayStation Portable, following Zack Fair's career as a soldier for Shinra. We get to see all the first-class drama and learn that it takes Sephiroth an entire bottle of shampoo to wash his hair. I remember having fun with the title, but I was young and naive then, so take it with a grain of salt. Still, I am excited to have a chance to experience it again and maybe finally beat it. That's coming out this winter. But if a glammed up PSP game doesn't necessarily sound exciting to you, you can still experience Crisis Core in Final Fantasy Ever Crisis, the mobile game that aims to tell the entire original Final Fantasy VII story, which includes Before Crisis, the OG mobile game that I don't think was released in the West, Crisis Core, 7, Advent Children, the movie sequel, and Dirge of Cerberus, the game sequel. That's getting a closed beta sometime this year, which hopefully means it'll be available sometime next year, but no release date has been announced yet, or pricing for that matter. It's a neat collection, but I have no idea how they're going to combine all those titles, and it is a mobile game, which I'm always a little apprehensive about. I think you can have good mobile games, but I've yet to have a particularly good experience with one. Perhaps most exciting was the FF7R2 announcement, now known to be named Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game is coming out next winter, and will continue the story from Remake and Integrate. If the first game didn't do a good enough job of explaining it, the trailer has more or less outright stated that this will be a new story, still set in the same world as the original, but exploring a new path. And I'm thrilled. I can't wait to see where they go. I imagine the gameplay will be much like Remake, complete with chapters, but I had fun with Remake, so I'm not too concerned. One thing that I do hope for is that we get to pick who we control outside of battle. On occasion in Remake, we got to control someone other than Cloud, and it looked like everyone had unique field actions. I would love for there to be environmental secrets that require different members of the party to get to, either working alone or in tandem. You could have Cloud operate some machinery, Yuffie use her very large shuriken. There's probably a name for that, isn't there? I wonder. Use her field action that we saw in Integrate to cut down a rope. And then Tifa could cross a gap. I think at the very end of Remake she was shown to be the most athletic of the group and able to, she was hopping on chandeliers or something. I don't remember. I need to play that again. We'll also have Red 13, and he's confirmed to be able to run across walls. I'm saying there's a lot of potential, and I hope they do something with it. Since after Midgar is where the original started opening up, I think it would make sense for Rebirth to loosen up and give the player more freedom in where to go and who to do things as outside of combat. That's just my hope, though. I don't think we've necessarily seen anything to imply that. The last big thing is that there will be 3 episodes of the Final Fantasy VII remake. That's an unfortunate name. The first one's remake. What do we call the whole trilogy? Reboot? Maybe. That could work. It's the Final Fantasy VII reboot until further notice. The third game will almost certainly start with an R, but we don't know the name of it yet. We have heard that they are working on it already though, so hopefully we won't have to wait as long for the third one as we did for the second one. For those keeping track, that means we have the Crisis Core remake this winter, 16 next summer, and then Rebirth and 14's next expansion next winter. There's a lot coming up, and I am excited for all of it. That's been all from us today, this month, at the old experiment. Thank you for participating. I've been Atticus. That was backwards. I've been in and out of the facility all month, and I'm going to be gone for half of next month as well, so expect some nonsense like this again in July.